right. What's up, everybody? This is so exciting. We're here talking about V-Raptor Live. We're going to be answering questions. We've got Jared on deck. We're talking about an 8K camera, right? We're talking about VV sensor. We got 120 frames at 8K, 600 frames at 2K. We're killing it right now, and I'm super freaking excited. We've got specialists on. We've got Dan doing workflow. We've got Johnny Pets and James. They're in the background and can pop up. We've got Lauren on the chat. But really, I know the important part is we want to answer questions. So I'm going to kick it over to Jared, and we're going to start siphoning through stuff and looking at questions and see what he has to say about all this.
Well, they're rolling through like fire. It's crazy. I saw something about the logo and, you know, our logo, the new logo. And that's really the work of Matt Tremblay. The guy spends a lot of time on our logos, and that, you know, it started with the weapon with the skull, and then you saw the Komodo, this Raptor one, which is somewhere here. And I stole that. Cleigh actually made that light up sign that I stole. I stole from
hey, I'm happy to see it doing good work.
30 seconds of me seeing it. I ripped it off the wall, his wall, and stole it. But that was, I saw a question about the logo, and that is 100% thank you, Matthew Tremblay. He's a ninja at that stuff.
Totally. And it's so like, here we go. We got something coming in. Oh man, our favorite one so far. What does the V mean?
You answer first.
Okay, so for me, I'm all about the velocity. How fast does this bad boy go? Plus, it's a bit of a pun. Come on.
Jay, you're going to get a different answer whoever you ask, because obviously the obvious answer is Velociraptor. I think that's what our trademark. I'll never use the V. I mean, it's just a raptor to me, but we have to say V-Raptor, I think. I don't think. But really, everybody on the red team, at least, have their own definition of what that V means to them.
Yep. All right. So next one's a big hot one. Is it global shutter?
It's not global shutter, but it's a fast shutter. So the reset. I'm sorry, am I hogging all the questions? I know we got the team on here.
No way. No, do it. Do it. No, you're going for it. You're killing it.
Yeah. So Komodo is king of global shutter. I mean, you can see how the two cameras kind of live together. Oh, I'm showing people the variable ND before I'm supposed to, but the you know, for the rolling shutter in the Raptor, it's twice as fast as in the Monstro. So you go from 16 milliseconds to 8 milliseconds, which isn't zero like Komodo, but it's pretty hard to bend. And the stuff that you are going to bend, that's why the Komodo exists.
Yeah, I definitely, when I was testing, I couldn't get it. And I had just done all those other ones comparing, and I couldn't get it to anything.
Lauren tried for a few days, you know, to really get it. I mean, you have all sorts of other issues when you're moving the camera that fast, or something else is moving that fast in it. But, you know, there is a difference. There definitely is a difference.
All right. Do we got autofocus in this bad boy? That's a great question, Timothy Sunday. We do. I'll cut right ahead on that one. We have awesome autofocus. I'm using it right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a lot of questions from, I'm probably jumping ahead here too, about the mount selection, the mount choice, and why it's RF. And I got to take this off, so I know I'm supposed to save that. So you can see the difference on this RF mount is we have a tightening ring here. So it's kind of like a super RF mount that cinches on the lenses and, more importantly, the adapters. And why we chose that mount is and I've said it before on the Komodo, I think the RF mount and what Canon did with that mount is the best mount that's on the market, not just from mechanically, so you can adapt it to almost any other lens that you want, but electrically, it has the power, It's got the control ring, which is really cool on a lot of the Canon adapters. You can assign to do other things like iris on a lens that you don't have an iris control of, or a bunch of other really cool things. So we really love the RF mount, and the RF glass by itself, even though it hasn't really been adopted from the cinema side. The still glass is incredible. In the new Canon lenses they are incredible, and I think they've announced it, but Canon has some more RF optical goodness coming. So yeah, that's the mount for this camera. It's the proper mount, and that tightening ring really cinches on when you're using a PL adapter or another adapter where you have big glass. It just sucks in all that slop, just like on our old EF mount. The same way, that lock ring kind of just tightened it all up.
Yep. And we're using I've got one of those PL mount adapters on right here, so that's obviously going to work for you, Dimitri. Oh, they brought it to you. I guess you can't save it any longer, Jared. They're asking about variable NDs.
Yeah, that was obviously, I think that's actually the #1 question that I've seen today. And we didn't put it, we have a XL, like a range, we call it the XL, but it's really the Ranger version of Raptor coming, I don't know, end of the year, early next year, that will have those built in. It's a much bigger camera like the Ranger was, but it does have NDs built in for this camera, and it will follow suit with Komodo too. We're making our own, am I showing the right side? Yeah, our own electric ND filter that you can swap out and electronically control either through the camera remotely through the menus, or there's 2 little buttons here that you probably can't see. And those will kind of give you a mount, 2 PL mount, RF to PL mount solution for NDs. And then, like I said, on the XL version of this camera, those will actually be built in.
Is it heating a lot due to its size? That's an interesting one.
The heating internally or externally?
You know, they didn't really clarify.
So it's interesting because as you can see, this is really, and I think Scott said it in his little sneak video, it's accumulation of all of our cameras. It's a lot of the Raptor kind of cooling mixed with the Komodo. The most important thing of this camera is to keep the sensor stable. We've kind of hit this target of 45 degrees Celsius for the sensor to live at. And I've tried very hard to make that sensor sway from that by literally putting a towel over it. Don't do that, anybody. Outside in the sun, inside in a hot room. And this camera has a lot of new electronics and basically a Peltier that just maintains that temperature. So everything around it might get a little bit hotter, but it's got a lot of room to breathe, a nice, quiet, big top fan. You'll notice, like we took out in the Komodo build, the last 1 or 2 Komodo builds, you can't even adjust the fans in them as a user. We did that on Raptor as well because we found people actually got into more danger adjusting those than when the camera just did it itself. And you really just have a problem with sound normally on a small fan. On this has such a nice big fan that it lets you get away with changing that fan as needed.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm having trouble seeing because the chat window just a second here, but okay, so what's the approximate battery life on a 98 watt-hour battery?
I'm going to get let's let James or Lauren or anybody. I feel like I'm
1 hour.
1 hour.
There we go. 1 hour. All right. Steven, sounds like it's about 1 hour, which makes sense. That's what I would kind of expect. It's a little bit of power draw, but when you're pumping those kind of frames. That's what you gotta
Yeah,
do.
it's a little nuclear reactor, this thing. It's not a Komodo, Komodo sips softly. Raptor, especially when you're at AK-120, it will suck power.
And I saw the question come up of what was the power consumption. It's that same 11 to 17 volts. And if anyone does have any existing DSMC power adapters, that same power adapter will work. So my belt clip, your power adapter, it's a good thing. Cleigh's pointing to it right now. So good thing to keep in mind there. And I'm going to turn myself back out to keep answering the questions.
All right, are we going to support DSMC2s anymore or not?
DSMC what? Support, hey. Of course. And it's funny because especially we're kind of pulling Komodo into the DSMC3, and that's a blurry line with us kind of internally what DSMC3 really means. But especially the Helium, the Gemini, well, that is DSMC2, and the Monstro, they're still very important cameras that will live on for some time.
Hey, they're going to live on forever. I got a Monstro right here. They're always going to matter, right? They're always great cameras. It's just, what is this new technology taking us towards? What are the things that we can do now that we couldn't do before? How are we going to take that to the next level? And here's another great one, Super 35 or full frame. What's the preference? I think Talion. Hopefully I said that right. I mean, it depends on what kind of characteristics you're looking for, right? So if I'm shooting product shots and it's going up on the web page, I might actually want Super 35. I might want to make it focused front to back without dropping off in depth of field. Whereas if I'm shooting a beautiful short film or something like that, having that great depth of field and the full frame characteristic that you get from those style of lenses and that larger acquisition, for me, that's a really nice look to use. And what the huge benefit of this camera is that it's essentially multi-format sensor, right? So it's got this 8K VV at that full frame size, and then you can hop down to 6K and be at S35 and utilize those lenses and still have great resolution punch out of that sensor crop. All right, we're looking for our next question here. They're going too fast for us.
I think that's one thing that...
Yes. Sorry, I'm reading as they go along, as they're flying by here.
I know. That's why we're trying to get to everybody, but we'll do our best as we have our moderators pulling in questions for us. So 17 plus stops at dynamic range, just to hit on that last one for a quick second. Sample footage, it's pretty early. Come on, cut us a break. I think somebody has some, though.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people shooting with this camera. The dynamic range thing is an important question because it's, we test, which the engineers do, and then we shoot Xyla charts. And it's really, Lauren? Is Lauren on here still?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. I don't know if you have your Xyla charts that you can share, but it's the dynamic range on the top is very close to is a little bit more, but very close to Monstro, but you really see it in the shadows. The shadows are night and day on Raptor compared to Monstro. And Lauren had some great little charts. I don't know if you even expected to share those, Lauren. Sorry to throw you under the bus there.
No, if you want me to share them, I can share them. But what you're finding essentially is the shadow reproduction of Raptor is a lot more organic, a lot cleaner. There's less structure to it, less blocking up when you sort of lift the gain. So at 800 ISO, they're very similar in terms of dynamic range and noise characteristic, but it's when you start to get under those higher ISO conditions that the shadows are a little bit more organic and less structure there. And I will pull up I'll pull up that quick little comparison. 1 second.
Yep, we got that little screen share button in the middle for you.
Yeah, if I get to it so I don't expose all of my testing everywhere.
Right. Keep the important bits behind the curtain, I think.
Okay, so
we should talk about the CF Express too.
Definitely. You got to get those right speeds somewhere. All those frames, where they're going.
Yeah, and that's an important one. We're actually, and that's what we've spent the last kind of little batch of time testing is the cards. And right now, we've tested everything kind of now and a little bit into the future. And Angel Bird, who I don't know if they've announced yet, they have our cards are based off they are the Angel Bird cards, just basically rebranded, but their new version with their new controller in them. And they're the only ones that can reliably sustain the highest data rates on this camera. So that's just keep in mind when you guys are shopping for media for this camera. Obviously, we're going to sell the red branded version. Angel Bird's going to sell theirs, but this is not you see the 660. It's not the Angel Bird XT CF Express. It's the new version that I really hope I'm not publicly announcing it right now, but it's the one that they're just announced or they're just coming out with. And that's literally what's holding us from shipping these cameras for the next 2 weeks. I think they start going out 2 weeks. So yeah, we're pushing media to, and that answers the why not CFast question. We are pushing things to the absolute limit, literally to this moment in time where the cards are just fast enough to hold that data speed.
That's us, right? Like that's what we like that for me. That's what I'm always so excited about. Like when I got this camera in my hands, I was like, oh, okay, so that's what we're doing. Like it's to that extra level, right? To take it to where like it's almost not possible. Like we're right on that edge of like, okay, you can make it work, you can get there sustainably and have good stability in this place. But man, you take 2 steps forward and you're off the cliff. Like,
Jared, what's your my name? Jared, what's your favorite feature right now? Since I just posted those Foxes from Big Sur, that pre-record when you're shooting high frame rate, that pre-record, and we've actually kind of extended it along the way more than we originally had. That pre-record and AK120, and I have this. I'm using this. There's this company called Cam Trigger that has these kind of wireless motion detector triggers for the wildlife stuff and the outdoor stuff. It's incredible. So that's kind of my favorite thing because you with shooting animals, you can never really plan anything to happen. So it's a nice little kind of surprise when it happens. So that pre-record is super, super important to me right now. Shooting at that frame rate, and I'm sure that'll fall over to when you're shooting stunts or things blowing up. It's good to have that successful.
Oh yeah, I mean I've been freaking out about skateboarding because it's like you might fill up half a card with the dude not making the trick, and that's just the reality of how skateboarding works. And so it's to have that option to only capture the parts that you need is crucial in some of these fields, like you were talking about in wildlife, in stunt work, action sports. There's just so much like, and to know that it works reliably, that it's rolling on that buffer and then writing to the card. It's like, man, that's something I'm super, super excited about. That'd probably be one of my favorites too.
Yeah, absolutely. What is that your favorite Cleigh? What's your favorite?
I would say, I mean, I can't lie, the frame rates, right? Like just being able to go that fast is like, for me, like, because 2K at 600 frames, like, those are shots we typically see specialty cameras come onto set to do. Even in the, like I was saying, in the skateboarding world, right? So we'll be on the session and you're doing the trick, and the warm-up trick, a camera that shoots that fast isn't shooting the warm-up trick, right? It's just not how it works. When you're ready for the gold, like, oh, you got something in your pocket that we're really gonna get wild with, then that specialty camera comes out. And we're kind of, for me, I'm super excited to break through that wall. And because I've always been about, like, DSMC3 is the thing for me. Like, I shoot stills. I think the different ways you can use one camera and effectively create a machine that goes with you everywhere. And this is where right in that pocket, right? A little bit larger than Komodo, but definitely pretty small to be able to carry around with me handheld on these, like, these sweet little grips right here. I want to do it all with one camera. I don't want to spend time and extra space in my bag switching stuff around. Like I just want to be able to do it all right here, and that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah,
Pump up those frame rates, all of that.
that's cool. Yeah, I know. We don't have Jeff Goodman here. Jeff Goodman's kind of our adult supervision on the product side. He's done an incredible job with this camera, and he keeps, I kid, he's the only person I answer the call at from 2:00 in the morning, and it's true. I mean, he's just a ninja. But I've been stuck on this AK-120 full frame, and a couple weeks ago, he's like, just turn it into 2.40 to at 8K and shoot 150, and just take 150, 120, you're kind of like, it's not that much of a difference. But it's like, holy Jesus, that 150, and it's a weird kind of number, but it just, at 8K, still 8K wide, but it's just a whole new way of looking. And then you start going down, 2K, 600, get out of here. I think that's what Lauren's been stuck on, is that 600 FPS just being a crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, it gets you in that different place where, like you were saying, 120, 150, okay, to my naked eye, am I really going to see the difference? Maybe not, right? But once you start hitting 600, it's vastly different perspective. You're just seeing things that your brain doesn't see averagely when you walk around the world. Okay, Any other codecs besides Red Code RAW? Thanks, Jose.
ProRes. Oh, we're not. Yeah, ProRes. Once you have to get certified, put through the proper procedures, but there'll be ProRes. Of course, we love ProRes very much so, and that'll probably be hopefully approved by them in the next couple weeks. Hopefully.
Yeah. Looking at dual capture where you get proxies and original files, or you could just go and capture proxies if you're on a crazy turnaround for something. Oh, how much does the camera weigh? I don't know that one.
Just over 4 pounds.
On that thing? Oh, did somebody say something?
That was me. I'm sorry. I got to not do that without turning on my video camera. But
it
is just over 4 pounds.
Cool. Yeah, it's a pretty little guy. 4.03.
Okay, here we go. So here's one. Will the XL and other cameras use the RF mount, or will it be similar to the DSMC2 style of adjustable mounts?
Johnny, take that one.
Yeah, Johnny, let's see you.
Come on, he's been hiding in the corner there.
Hello, everyone. So XL will be a interchangeable system. So like with DSMC2. So you'll be able to do PL, EF, and that kind of thing. So very familiar for those kind of high-end guys that want to have a robust mounting system that kind of screws in tight if you're getting on some big old anamorphic lens or some big old Optimo zoom on set.
Very much like DSMC2 in a way.
And also pairing that with the internal NDs that you said as well. It's going to be a killer combo.
Yeah.
Okay, sensor crop at different resolutions and codecs. So Jared was kind of talking about that earlier, right? 240 is going to give you more frame rates because you're reducing the amount of sensor you scan top to bottom, right? So any extras there give you higher frames per second. As you jump down the resolution, similar things are going to happen. We have all that stuff. If you want to look at the spec sheets for the exact stuff, we can call somebody in to walk us through it, but I think it essentially lines up with the math that everybody was kind of talking about, right? So 8K at 120, drop it down to 240, you get that 150, and you can keep doing that as you drop down in resolution.
Yeah, we posted the whole kind of matrix, right, for that?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, so what about low light? We should bring back Lauren, because I think that's exactly what he was kind of talking about.
Yeah, it's good. And Phil, do we have Phil Holland? Where's Phil Holland?
Shoot, Adam, you got that link
somewhere? Can we actually make him a talking person or no?
Yeah, you know what? We could try here. Frank or Jay, you guys want to send the link to Phil? Thank you.
I don't even see him on here.
We're getting at Jared. We're working out a link that we'll send to him the same way we sent to you to get him in the app with us.
Yeah, it'd be cool. We love Phil. He's kind of one of those camera whisperers out there that everybody relies on for charts and for his technical expertise. But this last weekend, I had to go to a birthday party thing, and it interrupted our kind of final testing. So he kind of magically snuck in and said, "Hey, why don't you let me borrow the camera for 4 hours?" And, I promised to bring it back. And so he actually, so I don't know why I agreed, but I agreed. And he took it out. And he actually did some really interesting
Maximize
thing.
Jared and then unmute me.
Oh,
Sorry.
right. That chart is way
Sorry.
more important than me. Yeah. Wait, can you even see it though?
Yeah, I think everyone can see the chart. Everyone can see it on the left side of the screen, bigger.
Yeah, it's kind of in a small box for me, so I can't see any difference whatsoever.
Oh, okay, so the feed's going. The feed's going, and they can see the Xyla chart up now. Now we're just fully just Xyla chart, and we can talk over it.
Great. Jared, do you want to say anything about it?
You can talk to it. It would be cool if you could actually like zoom in, so it's not just a little thing, but maybe everybody else sees it as a big.
It should be their whole feed right now.
Yeah, I think it's the whole frame for everyone. But yeah, so shooting this chart, it was they're very similar in terms again of dynamic range, and sort of the mid-tone noise structure is very similar. But what happens is when you go to the higher ISOs, that's when you'll really start to notice this cleaner shadow reproduction. So this is an 800 f4 Xyla, and then when I jump over to an 8, an f8 or t8, 3200 ISO, you'll see the noise structure dramatically different in the deep shadows. How the top being Raptor and the bottom being Monstro, how much cleaner that shadow detail is, and how it's not obscured by more fixed pattern, more structured noise characteristics there. So again, while the noise quantity is very similar, the feel of that deep shadow noise is much more organic and superior, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's just your opinion. It's pretty obvious, and that kind of eliminates the need for the dual mode sensor, kind of like Monstro. When Monstro and Gemini, that was a big comparison, and there were some situations where the Gemini would perform when you switched that, and you can actually get in Raptor now the benefits of that, the same kind of idea. So you don't have to, not that it was that difficult to understand, but
yeah, the oversample from both Monstro and V-Raptor does really help in the noise performance when you do compare it to a dual native sensor like Gemini or other sensors on the market, because that oversample from 8K down to 4K really does improve your noise averaging, and it is very similar to some of the other dual native sensors in the market, despite the fact that it's not dual native because of that oversample.
Yep. And I'm coming back in to always say, it's like, if you can give it to me in one camera, I feel the same way about modes as I do about cameras. If you can give it to me in one mode and accomplish all those tasks, it's easier for me from a workflow on set perspective, and it gets me faster to the shots that
oh my God,
I'm gonna stop right now.
Wow.
What's up,
Phil? Sorry, Phil, for putting you on the spot, but you're one of the rare few that has actually taken this unsupervised out and about. So I think some people were asking you what your thoughts were. So
yeah, that was a full top secret operation.
And I'm proud of you. You did a good job, little buddy. You did it.
Yeah.
You kept your mouth shut.
Yeah, I just wrapped 9 months of filming on Monstro and got home in August, and there was a phenomenal opportunity to test out the camera, like literally just a couple of days ago. So I grabbed an actor and called up everyone I could and kind of did a sort of like narrative test setup, some tricky lighting and then some beautiful lighting. And it'll be online shortly for people to see.
Yeah, post it live if you're ready. And I know you have some images. Do you have some images too? Or can you share screen? Or I'm sorry, we shouldn't be prepared for this.
Yeah, I'll post some high-res 8K frame grabs on Red User later
Why
today.
don't you just post it like?
Yeah.
Why don't you post those stills on your Instagram or Facebook or whatever?
Okay.
After you're done here, but yeah,
Cool.
it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see what you put together in literally hours. Blew my mind.
Yeah, that
So
was
thank you for that.
crazy.
But what do you think?
So cool.
What do I think about V-Raptor? I think it's an impossible machine. I think it's tiny. I think it's fast. If you're looking for like actual user feedback that I think is notable, you know, from a filmmaker's perspective, having the side menu panel there for ACs and even, you know, shooters as well, just operators, is just kind of a important thing. But the first thing as I was up and rolling for like a couple hours was just the speed of pressing record, cutting, resetting for a new take. There was no waiting. Also being able to play back takes immediately was like pretty phenomenal. The camera's really small. You know, I think I've been the poster boy for modularity, but having everything integrated on the body helps make it smaller. And that was helping me speed up the shooting quite a bit. The filming day moved. And also, Jared knows I'm one of the big vocal advocates and was really happy about Komodo being so quiet. And Raptor is also a very quiet camera. So you can actually roll audio without any real concerns. That's a huge improvement for a lot of people who shoot in tight spaces or whatever. Yeah. What else can I say?
I love what you said about modularity too, because like the adapters make the camera really adaptable, right?
Yeah.
And so the stuff that's built on is the stuff you really need. And then you've got these other tools to go in that modular direction when you need to.
Yeah, that
agree.
modularity was, and I mean, you're the poster boy, and it was my insanity really, because you get this idea of modularity, and it was a really important moment. And it was actually Jim called me from 30,000 feet up and said, I've got this great idea about some of these modules. And that was the problem, is you're like, let's make 50 different modules. And unfortunately, none of them really did everything you needed it to be, specifically. And you had to have the space, build in the space. And this is where, you know, our engineers and Uday would yell at me nicely, is when I keep saying make it smaller, you have to have the mechanicals and then the electronics to make them pair. And, you know, you come to a limit where you just can't build that modularity in with especially with the high speed signals that we're sending through. So you kind of saw with the Komodo, and I saw a question here fly by, you know, why wasn't the Komodo the first of the DSM-C3? And it really was, you know, it really was. It just wouldn't make sense until you had both of these cameras for that to be the launch of the DSM-C line, because it was limited in some ways and it excelled in some others. And there's things that the Komodo can do that the Raptor can't. But together, they're this perfect kind of pairing. Does anybody have that picture, the side profile
Yeah,
of them?
we do actually. Let's throw that up real quick. So we
yeah,
have
throw
a
that
couple
up, 'cause
great
it's-
pictures. We have two different versions. So
Because
here's
everything
one.
in my hand looks small, but yeah, that's a perfect example. And you can see they kind of live together.
Yep, and we can go back to big fish eating little fish.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's true. And so that's kind of the DSM-C3, and you know, you add the XL to it, which is the Ranger version of Raptor, and you kind of cover all the bases. So yeah, that's kind of why that Komodo wasn't launched at DSM-C3, and we're not really pushing the Raptor as DSM-C3 as it is, because these are kind of just a new generation that is so different in some ways than DSMC2. It's not just an evolution of that line.
Totally.
Can I bring up a couple of things that I noticed?
You
Jared
can
got
say-
like immediate
you can-
reaction, and
you can
I was
say
looking
anything
around
you
the
want.
camera for a second. So I think one thing that a lot of people are going to be happy about is you have phantom power back in the camera. And I did not get an opportunity to roll audio in my shooting condition, but I think a lot of people are going to be pretty psyched about that. I'm also like freaky impressed with this sensor. I mean, I've been looking at images now off of it for a couple of days, and it's pretty phenomenal. I've never seen anything that's reading out 8K at this frame rate. I mean, even in LQ, it looks like they're just still images. It's quite impressive.
Right, and if you compare like with the write speeds, MQ is the best of DSMC2 in this camera, right? So like HQ's better than anything we did before as far as like the data that you're writing and capturing. So, I mean, that says something right there in and of itself. Like, and okay, so here, wait, I'll pull one more question in that we're seeing here. So, will there be interchangeable olpfs for the DSMC3 bodies?
Give that to Johnny or someone. We got to get everybody involved here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So on V-Raptor, it's not. So there is a new olpf stack, which is really, really exciting. So kind of similar to Komodo, how we had that kind of blend of standard and skin tone highlight. That's it. But the really cool thing that I know Lauren's been testing a lot about is that reduction in CMOS smear. So that's one of the really exciting things that when I was testing it, and I think Lauren could probably chime in here as well, is that that reduction was really exciting, seeing that kind of big change over from Monstro.
Yeah. I mean, the CMOS smear is improved in the more realistic scenarios. The blinds and stuff. It wasn't a big problem that people saw on Monstro a lot. Some of your helium shooters may have been more attuned to that, but there is still an improvement from Monstro on that. But specifically with the CS or the olpf, it is, especially if anyone's ever hit the orbs that you may occasionally get at a deep f-stop shooting the sun, or a high, a very focused Fresnel kind of light, that does not occur on this. So this has really done justice to the lensing and to sort of representing the true, we're all obviously, every time we do a camera test now, it's almost a lens test more or less. So really staying true to the characteristic of those lenses and making sure that the flares and all those sort of characteristics are coming through and being honored truthfully is super great in that new olpf.
It's a huge one for me. You guys know I shoot a lot of helicopter aerials, and I explore a lot of deep stops for that type of work. We're shooting quote unquote natural history from the air a lot of the time, or even big cities, and being able to stop down to T8, T16 and not having that pop up as a problem. I mean, that's huge. Just, I can't even tell you how big of a deal it is.
Lauren, you have some, I know we didn't prepare for this, but Lauren has a really great comparison from Monstro and Raptor 2, shooting in the sun. And Phil noticed that without me even telling him that the difference in the olpf stack and the sensor.
Should I throw that up?
First? Yeah, do it.
Yeah, go for it.
Why not?
Here we go. This will be quicker. So here we go.
And actually, you know what? If you want to prep it in, you're already up. Never mind.
Yeah, already up.
Perfect. You want to make that big and us little? Perfect. Thanks, guys.
So here's a Fresnel pounding down the center of a 24 millimeter Sigma. You can see we've got, obviously on the right-hand side, the lens flare that is naturally occurring in the lens, but on the left, we've got a little bit more of this magenta reflection. And here is in V-Raptor. So none of the magenta reflection, honoring just the true right side reflection. We also have an orbs image here, may not be as visible over the stream, but you can see there's a very light orbing here where you've got some polka dots, magenta, that is not there on V-Raptor.
That's
up
so
now.
clean.
Yeah.
Huge.
Jeez Louise.
It's not only removing the magenta artifacting, but there's also a subtle color cast that's getting, that image looks so much more natural to my eye.
Yeah, and reproducing the character of the lens more effectively, right? So you're getting a cleaner read on what that lens is doing instead of it being influenced by other colors and light rays bouncing around in there. And that shows where this stuff has come. So, oh, you know what? Touching on Phil's XLR comment too, I'm curious to hear from Johnny about adapters with gold mount batteries and other stuff coming related to audio too.
So yeah, so we've actually got some really exciting accessories that we've been working on, actually with Dominic Aiello, an ex-Panavision designer, in tandem with Matt Tremblay that Jared was talking about earlier. And just to touch on that kind of gold mount adapter, we do have a series of accessories that are going to be coming out very soon to kind of bring you that kind of functionality in a full rig that's going to kind of really seamlessly kind of work together. So what's really cool about that gold mount adapter is that it ties into a top plate that we're kind of coming out with as well. So that power plate will be able to power this top plate, give you some 2-pin LEMO outputs. And you'll see down there, this was something that Lauren actually bastioned, was that there's going to be a little light on the side of it that's going to be able to illuminate the side of the camera, which is super, super cool. And just to touch on that final point about XLRs, we are going to have our own XLR breakout accessory that can be mounted anywhere on the camera. You can see there's like a little mounting bracket on the back. You can mount that behind XLR1 or XLR2 and then mount it essentially anywhere on the body. So we're going to have a really exciting rig, and basically the brief was to have a production ready kit. We've got risers and top handles and all of these bits that can kind of integrate and work really seamlessly together with the rest of them. And I saw Phil shaking his fist there. So yeah, so it's all going to work super cool together. I know, Jared, you had so many cool discussions around this. It was a pretty cool.
It really is, and thanks for bringing that up. And I don't want to lose that thought, but you know, Dominic was at Panavision, and he's their mechanical camera super. I don't know what his actual title is, but he was kind of their head designer, and he just was really important on the DXL as we collaborated on that. But watching him and Matt Tremblay come together for these new accessories, and then, you know, taking the feedback from the rest. I saw Phil's eyes light up with the little LED light that was Lauren's idea for the buttons that lights up under that top plate. It's really a next level that we can do with Creative Solutions, where Dominic is now, you know, who, I mean, they have a million different companies over there, but you see that with the monitor and the small HD monitor, but these accessories are really well done, and it's something we haven't been the best at before. Everything looked really cool. Thank you, Matt. But sometimes they just didn't work exactly like somebody like Dominic adding to the talent pool really brought these things to a whole different level. It's really cool, and it's really cool watching those two guys work together. It's a dream team for sure.
That's like the whole point, right? Like the industry, what we're all kind of seeking is this beautiful combination of aesthetics and the technical needs that go into creating those aesthetics, right? And what those are used for. And it's like, it's such a cool, like I love, like you said, the way the products look is amazing. And then you add this level of functionality, and it's like, who can be upset about that?
Yeah. And it's really, you know, and it's really us, you know, when we started, when we came out, we had to make the sensors and the boards and everything ourselves, and the ASICs and every accessory we tried to do ourselves. We just felt like, you know, that was the grown-up, mature thing to do, is make everything. And really, it was the most immature thing, because as you can see, as we've moved along, everything on the camera now has become more the mount and Canon. I'm a huge I love Canon. I love their glass. I love their cameras. I have a lot of respect for those guys. Being able to use their mount is phenomenal, because I wanted to make our mount. We actually prototyped our own red mount and a line of lenses, but we wouldn't have done it as good as them. The accessories, same thing. Now we have Creative Solutions, and they've got Dominic and the guys from Wooden Camera and all of these these groups of talented people, it just makes them better and makes it easier for us, but it's easy for them because that's what they're good at. The batteries, I mean, everything down the list. This industry is so full of different companies now, and there's so much intermingling. Nobody can stand by themselves. Well, they can, but it's not very fun. I think everybody kind of working together, getting by past the competitive nature of that, that's where the customer will win, and we win. It's just easier to have this talent pool that you can focus on and let somebody that spends their life dealing with just one product to hit out of the park. And that's the way, we're very inclusive of everybody else and what they do. So it's pretty exciting. And you see that a lot on this camera, and this creative solutions partnership collaboration is really a good one. We're really excited about that one.
That leads us in so
one
perfectly.
More accessory. Oh, sorry, okay, just one more that I thought to show, because I saw some questions about it, and that is that we are going to have an expander module that ties into that EXT port as well. So gen lock, timecode, control, and there'll also be a 3-pin run stop port on there that will just be for run stop, so not powered, but hopefully this then gives you that kind of production setup that so many people always ask us for.
Yeah, I'm glad you popped in, because this ties our two things that I was going to say together perfectly, right? So having all that stuff offloaded from the engineers means that they're focusing on super important stuff like boot times and transferring between playback, like Phil was talking about, all that stuff, as well as black shading. So Johnny, do you think you could go over like TEC maybe and its effects on black shading? I know we touched it earlier, but there's probably more to dig into there.
Yeah, so as Jared was talking about, there's a tech now inside this camera, and that basically enables you to maintain a temperature for a much longer period of time. So the operating temperature of the camera is kind of 0 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. And that's really where you can operate within one black shade within. So, compared to DSMC2, where you've only kind of got a 10 to kind of 15 degree window, being able to have that really large kind of operating range, because this tech will cool and heat the sensor. So if you're in a really cold environment, it'll bring it up to temperature. Then obviously in a really warm environment, then bring it down again. So that's going to be one of the really exciting things for a lot of shooters who, move between a lot of different situations quite a lot, being able to, stick to a black shade for a much longer period of time as well.
Yeah, that's 30 operating temperature. I think it's the 2 degrees to 104 degrees Fahrenheit for the American people.
I was doing our British units there.
Yeah. Kind of in between. The Canadian in me kind of understands both, but I know a lot of times I'm like, wow.
I was on whatever the build was on the camera with the firmware, but I did time the sensor calibration. I didn't time the boot time. It wasn't very long, but if you don't mind, I'll tell you how long it took to do a full 8K sensor cal.
There we go.
It was clocking in around 4 minutes and 30 seconds, which is close to about half the time of Monstro. So it's quicker. It's not as fast as Komodo, but Komodo has less pixels to deal with. So that makes sense to me. And I'm sure in a firmware packets refined.
It is important just to note that the frequency of which you will have to black shade is dramatically reduced, because you're not shading for these different environments, inside to outside, bagging the camera for a rain bag. The sensor is managed much more tightly by that tech, and it's just going to require a lot less calibrations essentially.
That's awesome. That calibration range is huge too, especially for people who start working in the morning and go into the heat of the day. I went from a very hot and indoors environment that was actually over 100 degrees to a beach, chilly beach situation. But the interesting question while everyone's here, so does that mean, if you sensor calibrate, say at 1/48th, and then, maybe go to a higher shutter speed, do you need to actually do that sensor calibration if you're going to like 1/240th or 1/120th, or does that actually seem to cover those bases?
So from what Lauren, yeah, you go ahead.
I just wasn't sure. It will cover the base. I mean, we have our T/E indicators, so it's going to a narrower shutter angle, a quicker shutter speed to a limitation to a certain degree. Obviously, the camera shoots 600 frames per second. If you go to a 144-degree shutter at 600 frames, that you're going to be sort of outside the threshold of that. But yeah, to a 240, you're going to be okay. And the camera will warn you. The E will go will go yellow and then red, just like in DSMC2.
That's a question that comes up from people all the time. I thought I'd bring it up while there's people watching.
Yeah, of course. So I think we got another one rolling in too. This question is, what are the file sizes for 1 minute of 8K 120 in the 3 different compression ratios? I think Dan was working on some of the file speed stuff. Yeah.
He does. Dan Duran.
Well, for exact 1 minute, I don't know that off the top of my head, but we can talk about red code with Raptor itself. With red code, it's always evolving. We streamlined red code options similar to Komodo, which gives you red code HQ, which is rule of thumb capturing for like VFX and stills, very high detail, high complexity shots. Red code MQ for cinema and episodics are usually what we see that being used for. And red code LQ for interviews and longer takes. But what makes Raptor completely unique is that its red code MQ has roughly the equivalent data rate of our DSMC2 lineup cameras at their absolute best compression ratio. And red code HQ goes even beyond what was even possible with any of our previous cameras. So we can really, really push red code HQ on the Raptor itself.
Another thing that I don't know if we touched too is like controlling the camera, which is something you could do, say, over the USB-C port through an Ethernet connection. That's something like, so Phil, it's interesting too with you here for shot over stuff, right? So if you want to get easy access to control, wire out through that port, and in the cockpit you can be doing that and still getting all of that quality that Dan was talking about in those frame rates, but with an easier interface. That's something I've been super excited about.
That was one of my first questions to Jared when he showed me the camera. Is there's clearly a focus of USB Type-C. It's a nice universal connector. So integrating, accessories, that inspires certain types of button setups for handles or whatever, or interacting with monitors. I have no idea. Even the accessories you guys just showed, that's all new to me. So. So I think there's going to be a lot of potential for actually gimbal integration should be easier with USB-C.
Totally agree.
Handheld stuff.
Yeah, with USB-C, I've seen a lot of people. I can upload LUTs to it. You can make, take full control of the camera. So make your beta adjustments, download clips. You can even view a 1080p live stream right from that USB-C connection. Also, in a future update, you're going to be able to use a connection and remote record over 5 gigabit Ethernet cable directly to storage, which is going to make a lot of people very happy.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really, and of course, Mikhail has red control, and he's got a new version ready for this camera, which I mean, I can't live without. The camera does create its own web page, so if you have it on a network, you can control it and have live preview and everything as well. But that offloading and the 5G offload and recording is a huge thing, especially when cameras are places where you can't really grab at.
To red control. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, you're good, Phil. You just popped off for a second.
The wireless signal that goes to red control, does that get a resolution boost now with the more powerful hardware, or is that a 720p or 1080p signal? Do we know?
It's going to be it's a 1080p live stream right out of camera.
So from the get-go, you theoretically could just plug this camera in and do live streaming at 1080p wirelessly. That's pretty cool.
Just to be clear, it's MJPEG compression, not the full quality out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. And it's literally what I've been, my foxes, which feel like they're part of my family now. That was, those foxes were over on this perch on my property, and the camera was on, and I love that Cineshooter. It was on a Cineshooter on track, which now you can put in infrastructure mode and control remotely. And I just, for the last 3 months, that's all I've been doing is using live view, really, because there was no other real way to do it. And the weird thing is I have a Bolt 4K and I have a bunch of the other wireless SDI transmitters. It actually works better because you can have Wi-Fi. I've got Wi-Fi all over the place. It actually can go further distance because you're part of the local network. So, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, you really can just live view it. That's all I've been doing.
Yeah.
And then, that's the beauty of the Canon lenses and the Canon mount is you can change focus, you can change iris, you can do all that stuff without having to put all the lens motors onto the camera. So I love it.
Yeah, if you've got a mesh network in your house or your studio, you just came up,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. And it's great. And
So,
full control, or Mikkel also has full, again, I hope I'm not announcing something, but he has got a Full Control Pro app. Maybe he's already announced that. Maybe that's already out. That can deal with an array of cameras much better.
I got a question a bunch of times today after the announcement this morning. A lot of people haven't used Monstro in that VistaVision format size. But if you don't mind, I'll just say the formats that sensor size covers is really clever. It's a DCI aspect ratio 17:9 or 1.91. In UHD or 16:9, it's just a little cropped in. So that's your large format arena. But what you also have with this VistaVision sensor size is slightly taller than full height 4-perf Super 35. So all of those 2x anamorphics that most people have grown to love and expect that anamorphic look are compatible with that. And I think the sort of surprising one, Jared teased me with this, and I didn't actually do proper filming, but I did test it a little bit. He's like, this material looks really good at res, might even upscale pretty nicely. So I think you'll see some people shooting at 3K for Super 16. So you have that whole multi-format camera in one package is so cool. In the film world, you can't really do that. But in this digital era, that opens up so many creative possibilities where, for maybe one film, if you wanted to actually have all those different looks and formats, you could do that.
yeah, or if you're changing the lens based on, say, character's viewpoint, and you want to use a really specific lens that has a character that you're super interested in, you're looking to throw back to early 16, right? You're now able to enter a mode in the camera that enables that creative choice. Okay, here we go. I knew it was coming somewhere. Will it be an update program, Gemini to V-Raptor?
No update, no trade-in program. It's just that whole, and it really, really was awesome to be able to do that when we could. But the logistics and the expense of it, just dealing with the actual process of that, almost costs as much as the camera. It's insane how, just organizing that whole thing was just unrealistic to sustain. So that's why, it lets us put the camera in a little bit cheaper. You can tell this Raptor price is way cheaper than it really is, way cheaper than it should be. But the best way, and it really kind of always has been, is to sell your camera secondhand and trade it in. Just like cars, if you go to Tesla and, trade in your car to one of theirs, you're not going to get a good of a deal as if you went and did it privately. And I think that kind of carries on to now, but that really was the truth back then as well. But we just can't, it was just too expensive for us. So it's very simple. There's not going to be for the Stormtroopers and not for the black cameras. Are we sold out of the Stormtroopers? I think I think they're gone, but
we're not quite yet. I think there's a couple. So if you're trying to sneak in, now's the time. We're right there.
Yeah.
So seriously, if you're on this stream and you're like, man, I don't know, I think I do want one. Don't think, start acting.
And we're not making any more. This isn't like a sustained, extended Stormtrooper thing we did with Komodo. We made a shit ton of them and stopped, and that's really it. but there won't be an upgrade program for that, and there won't be an upgrade program for the black cameras when we come out either. I don't know if James has
Okay.
anything to add to that.
No, I think we talked about it earlier with having a sensor and a camera that was purpose-built for this camera. There really wasn't any additional room in there to have an upgrade path. And remember, with the option to shoot MQ, LQ, and HQ, you're going to be able to shoot high frame rate, large format, and still have an efficient file size here. So let's not all just rush to HQ. That is for visual effects. And really, MQ should give you all of that data and all of that quality that you're expecting with Monstro at MQ. Good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's an obvious.
Somebody's just asked.
Thanks for pointing it out. That's an obvious thing. Obviously, you can't upgrade, like physically upgrade, like we used to be able to sensors within the DSMC2 line or parts within the DSM. There's no parts on the DSMC2 that we can use in this camera. It's not, you know, I saw this comment before. They're like, oh, is it just a Monstro sensor with different software? It's a whole new sensor, whole new internals, whole new obvious externals, new media. There's nothing that shares the DSMC2 part. So it's impossible to actually upgrade them.
Mm-hmm. This is the RF to EF adapter, the same one I use for my Komodo, and it does have that ND tray built right into it. So it's nice to have that option right there. That will work. And then now we can use full frame lenses, another great thing. And this is the Komodo outrigger handle. So this will carry over as well as my battery belt clip. I saw the question come up of hot swapping. That battery belt clip will keep you shooting on your sticks or keep it close by in your bag. Great way to hot swap.
Yeah, I've had no, that's the one thing. You're right. Thank you for the point. And my power adapter that I actually power my wrap, I mean, I've had that thing for 10 years. You know, like that's an old thing. That still works. So there's a few things you can use, which is nice.
For sure, and like we were saying earlier, Komodo really is sort of an early entrant into this style of ecosystem. That's why you see that handle working. That's why those adapters between that RF mount are going to work for you. And it's all about this idea, like Jared said earlier, that these are cameras that go together, right? It's not to supplant. It doesn't make one better than the other. It's these have different functions, and they're supposed to do different things, but Raptor is the flagship. And it doesn't mean that like a Monstro sensor sucks. It's still an amazingly beautiful image. It's just that this does something magical too, something a little bit more. And then,
I saw
okay, so the question
about the. Oh, sorry, I'm not playing by the rules here, but I saw it was Raptor used on Matrix. Matrix shut down. The COVID thing hit them right at the end, the tail end of their shoot. So Raptor wasn't able to get on there. Like, you know, Komodo kind of stole the show there. But you know, that the one good thing is the Monstros. We had more than 50 Monstros that went to that show for. They were going to use it for a cool sequence that you can imagine what that sequence would be if you know the Matrix. And that's why we've been able to sell. They wanted us to sell them or try to sell them. And, you know, I think Max Digital won the most from that whole deal because he's been selling those things for the last 12 months. But yeah, unfortunately, Matrix didn't get the Raptor on them yet. So, yeah. Is Phil still here? Phil, go post your little thing because I keep seeing where's the footage. All
right, I'm gonna post it right now, but the HD version is the only thing live. YouTube has to render out the 4K version. Here, I'll post the link here so you guys can sticky it or whatever.
And post your little behind the. I'm sorry for hijacking your time, Phil, but you can post those behind the scenes images because as your images usually are, they're pretty beautiful. But I think people just want to see something.
I'm also making it public. I'm doing it all right now.
Right.
And while he's doing
Phil,
that,
if you want, you can type that message into the chat that goes with everybody else too, and then that'll show up so that if people want to click on that YouTube link.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll do that. Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Phil. Really,
about this because it's all new and crazy to me and wonderful. I think it's it's a scary powerful camera for its size, and super impressed by it. I can't wait to do some really weird visuals with it. So yeah, but yeah, I'll chat with you later, and good luck with the rest of the stream.
Love it.
See you, Phil.
Thanks for everything, Phil. Appreciate it.
So people are asking a lot when the black version or the production version of the camera will be available. That's one that I keep seeing come up, and it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Yeah, it won't be, hopefully, we are in a supply chain cluster fudge. Not supposed to swear on this. But it is, hopefully soon, because we made we're not keep making these stormtroopers. Hopefully, because we haven't made them yet, the blacks will come sooner than later.
Makes sense. All right, so it seems like we're winding down a little bit, just because a lot of questions that are coming up are essentially questions that we were covering before, or real similar to ones that we were covering before. Is there stuff, Jared, that you feel like you want to get out there that we didn't touch on?
No, I think I'm horrible at this, because we were supposed to save everything to launch everything, and yesterday I just kind of lost my mind and couldn't pull back. So, and thank you for our marketing team to kind of like jumping in and carrying the ship, because it was supposed to be. It's amazing we pulled this off without teasing for this long. A lot of the images that I've posted over the last few months have actually been from the Raptor, but yeah, it was a good little secret, and the team did a great job taking us till yesterday, almost today, but yesterday. And the thing to end on is really how proud I am of this team, of the Red team, and everybody, not just on this call, but everybody. We have really seen a lot of changes the last few years. It's been really difficult to navigate through, not just the COVID, but a lot of stuff. And the team on this one really came together better than any time before, and that really, you can see it in the product. I mean, this is by far the most mature camera that we've launched, and even in the beta Stormtrooper form, knock on wood, but it is really a beautifully polished camera, and that's just a thank you to the team, because it's really, from the top, we have new adult supervision with Tommy and Jamin kicking in there. But just on every level, everybody's come together as a team. When everybody was ripped apart with this COVID thing and forced apart, it really was cool to watch everybody in every division kind of just dominate getting this camera together. And again, you can see it in how well this camera functions. So that's all I got to say. I got to get some sleep, because I haven't slept in like 3 days.
It's been one, right? Getting this all there. I think everybody feels the same way. We're all so grateful to be doing this kind of stuff, to be bringing this kind of thing to people. It's like, I'm personally enriched every time we get to play around with new cameras, and every time that the company does amazing technology like this. The other thing I wanted to say, just piggybacking off Jared, is like, just how amazing this really is from like a technology standpoint, and that black cameras are available soon, and start calling your premium dealers, because those things, it's like, the cameras are going fast. I know there's people sitting in Komodo lines going, yeah, send me more cameras, right? Like, we want people to get in there and get those interests in, and be ready to go when the camera pops up, because it's coming.
Good. All right. And thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for tuning in.
It'd be strange, I've been trying to find a way to make a change. Break the chains, I've been trying to find a way to break the chains. It'd be strange, I've been trying to find a way to make a change. It'd be strange, it'd be strange, it'd be strange. I've been trying to find a way to make a change. Break the chain, break the chain, break